I'm Belle Bear. This is Sacred Mechanics.
Hey everyone, it's Belle. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Sacred Mechanics. Great to have you here. I've worked one-on-one with clients since about 2006 as a clairvoyant and an energy healer, psychic for lack of a better word. I don't like to use the word psychic very much. It seems so hardcore, but I guess that's what it is. And look, I'm going to be reflective in this solo episode, and then I'm going to pull up a few things that may be a little bit uncomfortable depending on where you're at in your life. But this subject matter is always fascinating. And through all the places I've traveled and through all the years and the hundreds or maybe thousands of clients that I've worked with, there is a universal theme to all of these readings and these sessions, easily more than half the time, and that's love. Romantic love, lost love, forbidden love, unrequited love. And of course, everybody wants intuitive guidance about work and money and kids, property and business decisions. But we always find our way back to our love connections, whether they be nourishing, toxic, or non-existent. So through all of this, I've learned heaps. And in each session, I feel deeply honored to be allowed into another person's life so privately and so intimately. And I do tread really carefully, but I do make sure that my clients get crystal clear about the questions they're asking me and why. First up, in the very short and sharp readings, a woman, it's usually always women that ask me these things. A woman may ask me if a certain man loves her, or a woman or the other loves her. And I'll tell her for free. If she's wondering how the other one feels or how he feels, I'll point out that this is normally a heterosexual thing because the man is just not responding as a woman would. So let's just go traditional he, she for now. If she is wondering how he feels, he may not be the one for her. If he loves you, you will know, my beautiful women out there. You shouldn't need to ask the heavens to answer that question for you. If you're partnered and asking these questions, that is different. It's really different. And there are many layers to unpack regarding these circumstances. And there's plenty of angles, and we're not going to get into that today. What I'm talking about is the single women or women drifting out of one relationship into another. You know, there's all these gray zones in between, and they're maybe a bit anxious about where to next with their heart. And sometimes this is really not good for us energetically. Does he love me? Does he love me? Does he love me? And it often boils down to this. Actions speak louder than words. And if he uses silence and distance as his language toward you, consider it the loudest voice of all. And I know we forget this sometimes, and I also speak for myself. Often had times in my life where I've wondered, and then the other voice comes in going, don't be silly, Belle. You're not hearing from him. He's not telling you he loves you. He's not showing you he loves you. He's not doing anything. So forget about it. Move on. Let go. Find the ways to let go. But sometimes energetically, I either don't want to let go or I can't let go and it feels too soon, and that forces me to look at it spiritually and from other angles to try and understand the situation and why is it so hard for me to just let go. Now that seems a bit of a drab start to this episode. I'm really sorry, guys, but this is something someone out there might need to hear in this moment. Maybe just a voice of reason to let the idea of someone go so you can free up your energy and move forward in a more whole and full way, ready for your next adventure. And what I really want to talk about is these complex karmic soulmate relationships and twin flames. I'm going to touch on all three, so stay with me and see if you can identify these relationships in your current situations or in your past. Pretty sure we've all got a few name tags we'll be able to pin to each one of these categories. Let's talk about the one that seems to get everyone's attention, twin flames. This is the most magnetic, consuming kind of connection you can experience. It's usually a romantic love connection as well. There's usually an instant sense of recognition, like your soul already knows theirs, and it pulls you in fast. People often describe their twin flame as their missing half, but that's a little misleading. It's not a romantic fantasy. It's a wake-up call, really. It's the kind of connection that exists to evolve you, not to complete you. So don't be fooled by the name twin flame. I think some people may say that their twin flame tried to extinguish their inner flame completely, because it can be quite a devastating trip. But on the other hand, it can be something that does make you whole again, but you've got to appreciate the process. Soon enough, the mirror effect kicks in and they start reflecting back everything you've buried, your fears, insecurities, old wounds. And it's really powerful, but it can also be too much. One person usually bolts, the runner, while the other one becomes the chaser, trying to hold on to something that feels cosmic or destined, and you can't articulate it, but the energy pull, it just feels spiritual. It doesn't fade either. You can suppress it and it will keep bubbling to the surface. It's this cord that seems to not be able to be cut somehow, or if it is cut, that it grows back immediately. If you know anything about energetic cord cutting and that sort of thing, you'll get what I'm saying with that. So what's really happening is that both are being pushed toward growth. So you're literally pushing each other's buttons and dredging up all of these fears and wounds almost from the bottom of the pond. I guess the love is like a lily and it's growing so beautifully in such a harsh, unforgiving environment beneath the depths. A period of separation is often necessary, a time to heal, to build self-love, to awaken to who you really are. And that process takes time and it's not easy. It can be your dark night of the soul. And it could be years that you're apart from each other. And when you come out the other side healed, you may choose to reunite, or you may feel full and complete enough that that work is done and not need to continue that relationship romantically. I just want to add too that the idea of a divinely ordained partner has much deeper roots in various spiritual traditions. For example, Kabbalistic writings describe a soul being divided into male and female parts before birth, which are then reunited in marriage. But I feel there's a different perspective. A soul isn't something that can be divided as such into two, identities. Additionally, I heard a fascinating theory or concept recently that if there are to be twin souls, they are already within us, two souls, one body, here to fight it out, as it were, or to balance our internal difference, to grow, make peace, evolve. And this concept deeply resonates with me. But I need a bit more time to process it, since I have been intrigued by human chimeras for a very long time, but have struggled to find authoritative information about it. So I might do a separate episode on that when I can garner enough credible content. Because personally, if anyone's got two souls living in one body, it's me. You can ask anyone that knows me really well. Go by two names, have two different, career paths, and there's always this tug of war and this struggle of who am I today? And no, it's not a split personality thing. It's just I have two defined facets to me, with their own complete worlds within this one encasing of my body. Back to the twin flames. It's more like two people whose energies are deeply intertwined, each carrying lessons the other needs. When they meet, they can either rise together into greater awareness or get caught repeating the same old cycles until they do. So, if you were to map out your life and do a bit of a timeline of major relationships and identify the patterns of the highs and lows, your complaints at the time, if you kept a journal through what you may be experiencing now or in relationships to come, and you start to identify these wounds that keep coming up, and these are all opportunities to heal and grow. So you can just leave that stuff behind and move on and experience love in a more transparent and full way that can just shine from you to others and for you to receive it with lucidity and clarity. And that's the beautiful goal we have here. All right, so the next kind of connection I want to talk about is karmic connections. These are the ones that feel fated, but often come with a sting. These relationships usually appear right when you need a lesson the most. Even if you don't realize it at the time, they're magnetic, dramatic, and often short-lived, but their impact lingers. Ones you just can't forget. And these partners show up to reveal patterns that need breaking. Old stories, past life echoes, emotional debts, whatever still needs clearing. You're drawn in hard because the chemistry is undeniable, but beneath that intensity is a deeper purpose. It's growth through friction. And these relationships can feel addictive. There's a push and a pull and a sense of, why can't I let this go? But that's the point. They exist to teach you self-worth, boundaries, discernment. And once the lesson lands, the energy starts to dissolve and you stop needing to repeat the same loop, and that release becomes its own kind of freedom. Like I mentioned earlier, if you can just break out of these negative cycles, it's like we keep running into the same wall, isn't it? Where you're like, I can't believe I fell for it again, or I can't believe I'm doing this again. Different person, same problems, and that terrible feeling when you realize you've manufactured the whole thing on your own, when you pull a thread and see where this all started. Yeah, you did this, you built this, and it's this subconscious way of going about things, and you can't help it. Just running yourself into a ditch sometimes because your higher self really wants you to learn this lesson. It's rarely easy, but karmic connections leave you stronger, clearer, and far more aligned with who you're becoming. They burn fast, but they're very clearing and healing, and they make space for the real thing. So all of these styles of relationships do have their place in our progression, in our evolution, emotionally, spiritually, and in this great school of humanity. And now we get to soulmates, which is the most common and adopted term that we like to use in relationships. These are the ones that feel like home. There's comfort and ease and a quiet recognition that doesn't need to be dramatic to feel profound. A soulmate might be a lover, a friend, a family member, even someone who drifts in for a short time but changes you deeply, and that connection really resonates with you and you just will never forget it. Soulmates remind us what connection feels like when it's safe. There's mutual respect, balance, and an unspoken understanding that you've known each other before, even if it's just a feeling that you can't quite put your finger on. They don't trigger your trauma the way that a twin flame might. Instead, they support your healing. There's this deep safety net, I suppose, where you can be vulnerable, and they always seem to say the right thing to get you back on track. They just somehow know your psychology, and that's such a beautiful thing to have. These relationships are where you grow in harmony and not chaos, and they can last a lifetime or a single season, but either way, they expand your heart and restore your faith in love. Some believe you only get one soulmate, and I think that there are many, each reflecting a different facet of your soul's evolution. Every true connection is a mirror of your becoming. So we're absolutely not limited to one soulmate. I'd say the possibilities are infinite. I also want to touch on this concept that came up for me early in my training a very long time ago about soul pods. Soul pods are groups of souls. They might be, 50 souls or people or less. It could be the size of a family and so on. And that it's this concept that there's souls within this pod continue to rotate roles one lifetime to the next, karmically teaching each other lessons here and there, but never drifting too far away from each other. This is a really nice concept to consider with the relationships that you have with your parents and your children and life partners and things like that, where, my daughter may have been my mother and that sort of idea, this give and take. And sometimes this can come up in past life regression work where you can identify other souls in different bodies through different experiences. So really fascinating. There's something here too that I can't avoid, and it's talking about when you can't have the one you love. There comes a moment in almost every soul story when love doesn't go the way we hoped, when the person who awakened something wild and sacred in us slips beyond our reach. And from a shamanic perspective, that's not just heartbreak, it's an initiation. It's the best term I can give that feels sacred and spiritual for that deep resonance of pain and longing is an initiation. When we fall for someone who stirs us so deeply, it's rarely about just them. They awaken the memory of unity, a vibration that our spirit recognizes. It's the song of connection that we all come from, the pulse of creation itself. And when we can't have them, the sin doesn't stop. It echoes inside us. And it's asking to be understood. In the shamanic way of seeing, longing is medicine. It isn't something to get rid of. It's something to travel through. The ache is the portal. It asks, what does this love reveal in me? What part of me is trying to return home through this person's face, this story, this impossible yearning? Sometimes souls meet in this life not to join, but to catalyze. The connection ignites a fire meant to burn away illusion, to dissolve attachment, ego, and the idea that love means possession. They may not walk beside you in this world, but that doesn't make the bond less real. And that's something you must remember and keep in mind. It just means the work is happening in another field, in the unseen space where both souls are still learning, balancing, remembering, even if that's in a dreamscape for you, or in meditation, or in visions. When love can't be lived in form, it becomes a spiritual dialogue. You might feel them in dreams, in the wind, in the music that seems to follow you around. And that's not obsession, that's energy completing its cycle. It's showing you where your heart needs tending. And sometimes you need to let that energy ground. Let it be, let it ground. And in that space, there's a kind of retrieval to be done. When we lose ourselves in longing, pieces of our soul get scattered across the story. Fragments of hope, of memory, of what might have been. And the shaman's path calls these pieces home. You breathe them back in, you reclaim your strength. Because the truth is, you didn't lose love, you became it. When you can't have the one you love, your task isn't to forget them. It's to embody the frequency they awakened, to let it move through you until you are radiant with it, until you no longer need them to remind you of who you are. That's the quiet alchemy of the heart, turning loss into wisdom and desire into light. Now I feel like we're going deeper and deeper and deeper into this muddy pond. I think we've left the beautiful lilies on the surface long ago. We get into the realm of limerance. I don't wish the feeling upon anyone. To be honest, it's really intense, and there's this great sense of futility that surrounds it. And to describe it, it's that almost spellbound state of longing where the mind can't stop circling around and around and around one person. Every look, every silence, every coincidence feels charged with meaning. It can feel like destiny, or that you're losing your mind and going mad. It's really not a fun state to live in, and it also can last for the longest time unless you can find a way to break away. From a shamanic perspective, limerance is a kind of soul fever. It's the spirit's way of trying to wake us up, to pull us back towards something we've forgotten within ourselves. The other person becomes a mirror for the divine, not because they are divine, but because they reflect our hunger to reunite with it. Limerance feels spiritual because it is, in a way, but it's not necessarily about that person. It's about what your soul is reaching for. The ache, the obsession, the constant mental replay. These are signals of energy trying to move, to come home. When you can't have the one you love, limerance can trap you in a fantasy, or it can become an initiation if you can work your way through it. And that process means finding the tools for yourself and getting to know yourself well enough how to lift yourself up and out and away from the edge of that cliff that we call limerance. If you trace it inward instead of outward, the same fire that once consumed you starts to illuminate you. You begin to see what this person awakened, your capacity for devotion, your longing for wholeness, your unhealed wounds asking for tenderness. That's where the transformation happens. When love stops being projection and starts being presence. When the one you thought you needed becomes the teacher who showed you what was already inside you, even if they're not aware of it. So rather than trying to silence the longing, you honor it. You let it teach you about your own energy, how to hold it, how to channel it, how to feed the part of your soul that's been starving for union with itself. Because that's the quiet secret of limerance. It's not punishment. It's a doorway. And once you walk through it, the obsession dissolves and what remains is love. But not for them, but for life itself. It's a self-love. And if you can hold that capacity, and I don't want to use the word extreme, but like it's definitely maximum self-love if you can flip the script on the stories of the other, the one that you are longing for, that you cannot have. Perhaps it's unrequited love, and reflect it back on yourself. It can be a nourishment over time once you can observe it from a greater distance and understand it more clearly as time passes on and that you've done the work. So if you're moving through the ache of love and loss and that space between holding on and letting go, let that longing soften you instead of harden you. Sit with it. Breathe it. Let it show you where your love still wants to flow, not outward, but inward into the parts of you still waiting to be held. Every separation carries a seed of awakening. What feels like an ending is often a return to your own center and to your own energy and your own soul song. That's where the true healing begins. And if you feel called to work more deeply with this, to move the energy, to heal the field around love and release, I can help. So you could just DM me and we can chat further about it. And through energy work and spiritual mentoring with myself or anyone you have access to, you can explore what it means to grow through separation and to understand the deeper purpose behind your connection and to restore balance and self-trust. Because even when someone's gone, their spirit may still be guiding your evolution, and you don't have to walk that path alone. Well, gee, guys, that ended up going all the way down to Limerance. I'm not sure how I feel about that. That was quite a journey, and it's highlighted a few things for me too as I've walked through the karmic, the soulmate, and the twin flame relationships. Yeah, it's a lot, isn't it? I hope this has brought you at least some reflection to understand pain a bit better and connection a bit better. Of course, there's all the thrill and the upside to all of this and the beautiful beginnings of all relationships, and sometimes the cathartic endings, but it's all part of this experience of our beautiful lives here. And it does pay to strive to understand some of these things a bit better and to look at things through the lens of growth and wholeness. That's what love does. So until next time, thanks so much and take care.
Thanks for listening. I'm Belle Bear, and this is Sacred Mechanics.